What's up everyone and welcome back to the channel. Now let's get into it. Khamzat Chimaev believes he could do what Usman and Masvidal couldn't to Colby Covington. Khamzat Chimaev and Colby Covington have been verbally sparring through the media, trash-talking one another. Khamzat has been calling out everyone under the sun for the better part of a year, while Colby has been talking all kinds of disparaging comments about Khamzat whenever he's asked about him in press conferences or interviews. Khamzat is 4-0 in the UFC, having won all his fights inside of 2 rounds, and is looking to win a potential title shot eliminator against Gilbert Burns on April 9th at UFC 273. Even if the fight is a #1 contenders bout, the UFC still has plans for the welterweight champion Kamaru Usman to defend his title against Leon Edwards, but given that Usman is still recovering from a broken hand injury, Khamzat wouldn't mind taking on Colby Covington in the interim. This is what he said while on the MMA Hour this week about that.
If Usman will stay a long time in LA, I'm gonna fight a Colby and kill that guy. Nobody could knock him out like real, like you knock him out like he did and never talk more. That's how to do. Usman couldn't do that. Well, Masvidal could do that. I'm gonna do it.
Khamzat is not short on confidence. What do you make of the Chechen Swede's comments regarding Colby? Tony Ferguson did not lose a step, says Michael Chandler. A couple of world-class lightweight battles are set for UFC 274. Not just the lightweight championship fight between Charles Oliveira and Justin Gaethje, but we'll also be seeing Michael Chandler fight against Tony Ferguson, who hasn't fought in about a year. Chandler and Ferguson have been at the top of the heap of the lightweight division. While Chandler is a former 3-time lightweight Bellator champion and former UFC title challenger, Ferguson had won 12 straight fights in arguably the toughest division in the sport and won interim lightweight gold. While he never got the chance to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov for the title, Ferguson is still one of the most respected lightweight contenders in the world. But his recent 3-fight losing streak does prompt a few questions on whether he lost a step or two. Ferguson is 38 years old, and with more younger contenders on the rise, there are some who question whether El Cucuy can make another realistic run at the 155-pound title. Chandler is not one of those people and believes that Ferguson's recent losing streak has to be taken into context. This is what he stated.
You can't just look at records and say, well, he's lost his last 3 fights. Those guys that you just mentioned, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, Beneil Dariush. I mean, these are the top guys in the world. When we're fighting up there in the top of the division, doing this round robin against the best guys on the planet at 155 pounds, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, and every now and then you're going to lose a couple in a row, just like I have.
What do you make of Chandler's statements concerning Tony Ferguson here? Don't forget to take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all of the latest fight news. Kamaru Usman is helping Gilbert Burns' preparation for Khamzat Chimaev. Welterweight champion Kamaru Usman and former title challenger Gilbert Burns have known each other for several years. The two trained together in Florida for a long time, coaching each other as they battled through the ranks of the 170-pound division. But despite that, they still squared off against one another for the welterweight title back in February of last year. Burns came up short in that contest, having lost the bout by a TKO early in the 3rd round. That's why some people might find it surprising that Kamaru has shown up to Burns' training camp to help the #2 ranked welterweight prepare for the surging Khamzat Chimaev and provide a bit of analysis for him. Burns will be taking on Khamzat at UFC 273 next Saturday on April 9th. In a highly anticipated fight, Khamzat is an undefeated welterweight, carrying a ton of momentum into this fight that could have title shot implications for the winner. Still, Burns, in speaking with TMZ this week, said he and Usman still have a strong bond, despite having fought one another, and the potential for a title shot rematch still looming if he gets past Khamzat. This is what Burns said about the whole thing.
I make peace with that feeling. The guy beat me. Okay, congratulations. Yeah. I don't have that personal thing. For sure, I want to become a champion, but I'm not after Kamaru. No, I'm after the title. I want to become a champion. I want to become the best.
Right.
But I don't have no beef, nothing personal, no grudge, nothing against Kamaru. And
what do you think about Kamaru Usman helping out Gilbert Burns ahead of the Khamzat Chimaev fight? And do you think Burns will beat Khamzat and earn a rematch against Usman? Or do you disagree and believe that Khamzat will walk away the winner? Kelvin Gastelum to miss UFC 273 altogether. Du Plessis' fight is canceled. An injury is forcing Kelvin Gastelum out of UFC 273, and the promotion has announced that the fight is cancelled. This matchup seemed to be doomed about a week ago after his original opponent, Nassourdine Imavov, was forced to withdraw from the card due to visa issues. While Gastelum had the chance to reschedule the Imavov fight for UFC 274, he opted instead to stay active. The UFC ultimately found him a replacement opponent in Dricus du Plessis, a South African fighter on a 2-fight win streak. But now, the whole fight has been scratched from the UFC 273 card altogether after it was announced that Gastelum suffered an injury with just over a week to go until the fight. Gastelum was looking to bounce back after having lost 5 of his last 6 fights in the octagon, which now included a 2-fight losing streak against the likes of Jared Cannonier and Robert Whittaker. What do you think about Kelvin Gastelum's fight ultimately getting scratched off the UFC 273 card? A middleweight matchup between Brazil's Andre Muniz and Uriah Hall was going to take place on April 16th at UFC Vegas 51, but it's now in jeopardy after news hit that Uriah Hall had to withdraw from the fight due to undisclosed reasons. The UFC is now looking for a different opponent for Muniz. This would have been Hall's first fight ever since he lost to Sean Strickland last July via decision. Meanwhile, Muniz was looking for his 5th straight UFC victory after going 4-0 in his first 4 UFC fights, including impressive submission victories over Bartosz Fabinski, Eric Anders, and Jacare. This fight would have been the co-main event for UFC Vegas 51, which is being headlined by a clash between Vicente Luque and Bilal Muhammad at the UFC Apex. What do you think about Uriah Hall withdrawing from the fight? And who do you think would step up to face Muniz on April 16th? Let us know in the comments. Tom Aspinall being patient with his MMA career and all the title talk. There are a host of words that can be used to describe Tom Aspinall: a finisher, a tough warrior, and a realist. One word that you cannot use is impatient. Aspinall has been lights out in the UFC so far and carried that momentum to a submission victory over Alexander Volkov at UFC London just over the last 2 weeks inside the O2 Arena. Aspinall now climbs up several spots in the heavyweight rankings, landing at number 6, right behind the Black Beast himself, Derek Lewis, and 1 spot just above Volkov. The 28-year-old is undefeated in the UFC so far, all finishes by submission or by a TKO, and he's proven that he can carry the weight of a marquee matchup. As for what's next, Aspinall isn't under any illusions that he's going to get a title shot anytime soon. After all, the UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou is expected to be out for much of this year, and the UFC is set to create an interim title until he returns. Does Aspinall believe he's in the conversation for that interim title? Not really, and he's not pushing for it either. This is what he said in a recent interview with CBS Sports about that.
To be honest with you, that's not really something that I think about, an interim title. I'm not interested in that really. I don't know if I'd say no or what. I think there's other people who deserve it more, like Stipe or John Jones, or there's definitely other people that deserve it more than me. Like, I've only just broken into the top 10, so I ain't looking at doing any of that kind of stuff. Like, look at Cyril Gane, like he was this close to winning to beating Ngannou. So like, the people like that guy deserve it way more than me.
Following his UFC London victory, Aspinall called out Tai Tuivasa, another young finisher in the UFC heavyweight division. It remains to be seen if the promotion would actually make this fight happen, or if they have other plans for Tuivasa. Tai Tuivasa has been linked to a possible interim title fight against Stipe Miocic, although there is also John Jones waiting to make his UFC heavyweight debut. What do you think about Aspinall's patience, and who do you think would be a great next opponent for the Brit? Thanks so much for joining us today and catching up on all things MMA. What do you make of what's going on in the fight world? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all of the latest news from the MMA Zone. See you next time.